That would be nice. And I feel anybody who's read my books, they actually get to know who I am. I'm very bad at talking about myself, but I'll talk to you about my books and what the work I do. I write novels, I write theatre and musicals, and I write a lot of books for children. The environment is my main interest because I feel that is the most important thing today, is to have a sustainable environment. And I've been writing about endangered animals and endangered habitats ever since I've been writing for children. Many of you kids here, or even the older ones, might have read my stories in the magazine Parenting. If your parents took the magazine, no, not. And I had a page in that for many years. But most of my stories are about animals. And there's lots of books. But I would like to talk about some interesting aspects of my books today, which I thought about only today.
Would you like some tea?
Yes, I'd love some.
Please
Let's finish this thing.
I'll take it after this one.
वो बाद में लेंगे.
मतलब अभी सबके पास. So I want to talk about something which I have normally not. What happens in a group is how did you start writing? How did you get your characters? You know, I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about something more which relates to everyone in the room. So I'm looking forward to doing that today. Suddenly it came to me that I should do this rather than answer questions about how I started writing and why I write. So very right.
उनको दे दीजिए.
हाँ बेटा एक खाना क्या मेरी चीज़ याद है. हाँ प्लीज और थैंक यू. इसे चला चीनी का इसमें किसमें चीनी पड़ी. एक मिनट रुक जाओ. ये क्या चीज़ है. ये चाय पत्ती चाय पत्ती है तो कोई बात नहीं. हम चाय पर आगे कमजोर है. ये थैंक्स. ये चम्मच से लेते हैं. हाँ अच्छा थैंक.
अब और कुछ मत करिए. बैठो.
Shall I start?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Today I thought, and it just came to me between yesterday and today, that instead of doing the normal thing, I'll do something which is interesting for all of us. I'm sure all of us in this room speak at least 2 languages, if not 3, if not 4, if not 5. I'm going to speak about my journey as a writer, but through language. I'm going to look at it from the prism of language, and how languages, the languages that you know, how they affect your psyche, how they affect your creativity, whatever languages you know. So I'll start, I sort of prepared something. The 4 languages that I know, Hindi, Urdu, English and French. I'm differentiating between Urdu and Hindi, and I'll tell you why. Now, so I'll start first with Hindi. In my home, my parents belong to Lucknow. We speak Urdu. I mean, we used to, now we know Hindi. Now there was no television earlier, so we didn't know the kind of Hindi that, I think nobody knew it. Some had other, some didn't know, some didn't.
Scary.
And so I sort of didn't know anything. I was in school in UP, and they said you're domiciled UP, you belong to Lucknow, and we don't offer any other, you can't be offered lower Hindi, because only the Christians and the Anglo-Indians were offered lower Hindi. Hindi B, they were offered lower Hindi, and all the others had to take higher Hindi. So I didn't know any Hindi. I didn't know Hindi in the sense I didn't know the word avashyak. I knew zaruri. I knew it, but I had to search somewhere in my head to find avashyak, to find shabd. I didn't know the word shabd. I used to say loves. So I was like, when I had to do higher Hindi, it was a huge challenge. I still love it. I don't regret it, because it really enriched my life to study people like, we had Dhruv Swami, we had Raban, of course Kabir, like Ravidas, all those poets. Sumitra Nandan Pant. So I said, so I'm going to start with Hindi. I'm going to read something of Sumitra Nandan Pant, which we had in school. And you can see how difficult it was for a person who the word shabd doesn't come naturally to that person. So I studied, I did very badly. And teacher used to tell me, he'd say, beta, तुमको आता सब कुछ कुछ है, मगर तुम लिखती तो उर्दू में हो, सारे वोकैबुलरी तुम्हारे उर्दू की है, तो तुम कैसे इसको, तुम्हारे बहुत बुरे नंबर आए. अब I had no choice, बुरे नंबर आए, I passed. So, but what I want to say is every language that you learn has an imagery, has a rhythm that establishes itself in a sense in our souls. You know? And all the languages that I know are kind of very undulating, very, very interesting for me, and I feel that I'm formed as a writer because of the rhythms of the languages that I know. And when I do workshops in creative writing, I always ask them about their mother tongue and about, you know, what to sing a song in their mother tongue, to write, because that really helps if you want to write in English, because oh, I'm so sorry.
साइड में रख लीजिए.
हाँ, इसको साइड में रखते हैं. I want to read it from here. And the images that are there in every language. Now my book is called My Little Boat. I know it sounds like the publisher said tweeny, but the point is, जो नैया का जो image है, especially in the lands of rivers like North India or wherever, it's such a strong image. It's the image of the crossing. It's the tarini that takes you across the river of life. Kabir, I've written it in the beginning of the book so that it explains. Kahe Kabira barambari, mohe bhav sagar tar murari. And so the image of the boat, I wanted to keep it like that. There's a folk tale, a fairy tale in the beginning about a girl called Uga. My grandmother used to tell us this story. And how the boat also forms, it sort of offers a means of escape from mundanity. And now we find that in all the poetry. I mean, when I think about it now, probably all these things have affected me, the images of. So first I'll read from Sumitra Randan.
इधर से
It's okay, I don't know anymore, I probably. So I'll read from, it's called Nauka Vihar. I don't know how many of you studied Nauka Vihar in school. But you can see Nauka now में
तुमने पढ़ा.
जब सुनेंगे तो पता से याद आ जाएगा.
नहीं याद आएगा, ये अब नहीं होती नहीं है मुझे.
एक टॉपिक होता था चांदनी रात में नौका
विहार. हाँ,
ऐसे टॉपिक हुआ करता था चांदनी रात में.
नौका विहार. शांत स्निग्ध ज्योत्सना उज्जवल, अपलक अनंत नीरद भूतल, सैकत शैया पर दुग्ध धवल, तनवंगी गंगा ग्रीष्म चिरल, लेटी है शांत क्लांत निश्चल, तापस बाला गंगा निर्मल, शशि मुख से दीपित मुख करतल, लहरे सर पर कोमल कुंतल. Then I won't read this part. I read another part which is very, very rhythmic, very beautiful. The imagery is so beautiful of the boat on the river, on the river Ganga. Ganga is called here Tapas Bala, Ganga Nirmal. मृदु मंद मंद मंथर मंथर, लघुतारिणी हंसनी सी सुंदर, तिर रही खोल पालों के पर. You can just see that like a हंसनी, वो अपने sails को खोल के कैसे ना, and look at the rhythm of it. It's like a dance. मृदु मंद मंद मंथर मंथर, लघुतारिणी हंसनी सी सुंदर, तिर रही खोल पालों के पर. So it's compared. Yes, it's compared to the thing. And Lagutarini, little boat. So the boat of one's life, one has everything in it. Love, politics, compassion, struggle. Everything is there in the boat, and we are going across the river of life in that boat. So this is a very strong image in India of the boat. That's why the book is called The Boat. Meri Jeevan Ki Naiya. Naiya means choti si Naiya. Lagu Tarani. So this is one of the images from my childhood. And can you imagine how difficult it is for somebody who doesn't know the word Avashya? The word And then I want to go on to some poetry in Urdu. In my home, we were not taught because we never had the option. Like I said, I had to study higher Hindi. But my parents and in their generation just spouted poetry. Mir, Ghalib, Jazbi. They were just spouting poetry at every occasion. They would just spout, verses. And so obviously I grew up in that atmosphere, and I my brother and sister are not so much, but I'm more into literature. So I was like more attracted to poetry, and I learned a lot of it. And so I'm going to read to you from. So what I want to connect here, there are things like travel. You know, when you're in a boat, you're traveling. And in all the languages that I know, Hindi, Urdu, French, English, of course, everybody here knows, travel is very important. You have to cross over. You have to go somewhere. You have to find a place what you're seeking. All these things that we are doing, they are very practical things. You know, I have to do this. I must do this. I must, get. But that spiritual travel, which we are looking for, very few of us actually are able to find. Excuse me. Yeah, I'm just looking for my. So yeah, I'm going to read to you from the other language, which is my mother tongue, which I don't really read in Urdu very well. I don't know what they've done with it. Excuse me. Okay. This is Ghalib's. The idea of traveling and reaching somewhere which is, which is unknown to you, and which somehow will enrich you in some way. Everybody's seeking from within, spiritually seeking. रहिए अब ऐसी जगह चलकर जहाँ कोई न हो, हम सुखन कोई न हो और हम जुबान कोई न हो, बेदरो दीवार सा एक घर बनाया चाहिए, कोई हमसाया न हो और पासबां कोई न हो, पड़िए घर बीमार तो कोई न हो तीमारदार, और अगर मर जाइए तो न हो खां कोई न हो, तो कोई आपको पूछने वाला न हो. But yet it's desirable to be in a place where you know nobody, because it's the unknown. It's the mystery of life which you reach when you don't know anyone. You can't speak the language. You can't, हम सुखन कोई ना हो, हमको समझने वाला ना हो कोई, जो हम चीजें सोचते हैं. That is there. Then there is Faiz Ahmad Faiz, who came several hundred years later. There is something called "ए रोशनियों के शहर." We know that Faiz was a political poet, and but the symbols are romantic, and they're also about nature. So this "ए रोशनियों के शहर," I'm going to read only a part of it. So you'll see in that also there is travel towards the रोशनियों के शहर. So you have here, सब्जा सब्जा सूख रही है फीकी जर्द दोपहर. Look at the imagery. सब्जा सब्जा सूख रही है फीकी जर्द दोपहर, दीवारों को चाट रहा है तन्हाई का जहर, दूर उफक तक घटती बढ़ती उठती गिरती रहती है कोहर की सूरत बेरौनक दर्दों की गदली लहर, बसता है उस कोहर के पीछे रोशनियों का शहर. Look, there's something you're seeking, that रोशनियों का शहर, that it's not here. यहाँ पे गदली लहर है, धुंध है, कुछ समझ में नहीं आता है. But everyone seeking that. बसता है उस कोहर के पीछे रोशनियों का शहर, ए रोशनियों के शहर. Then he addresses the रोशनियों का शहर. I'm not going to read the whole thing. कौन कहे किस सिमत है तेरी रोशनियों की राह. How do I find that राह? किस सिमत, किस तरफ हम जाएंगे, किस जानिब, जब हमको वो रोशनियों का शहर किस रास्ते से जाएंगे. So that is again it's travel, crossing over. So I feel for a writer, transgressing rules, traveling, crossing over is very important. Unless you transgress, unless you break rules, and that is what the protagonists in my books do, Sophia. And it's not just that, it's the idea of traveling and reaching somewhere, that Roshniyon ka Sheher. It's something that you're looking for, and something unknown, but also transgressing rules. Those are the things which writers need to do, and which I think great writers have done in the past. And and then the imagery. So all these things, having grown up with this imagery, and then I joined my masters in French in JNU right after school, the 5-year masters. And then I'm going to read some in French, but all you need to look at it as a rhythm, which of course Imrani will understand. It also speaks about travel, about the sea, about the boat. You know, Malami, Rambo, they all, especially the romantic poets. So there's one after Rambo, he has got a whole long poem called Le Bateau Ivre, which means the drunken boat. Now again is the image of travel and of going in any old direction, because your boat itself is drunken. And but I'll read from both. Excuse me. of Baudelaire, who's written The Flowers of Evil, Les Fleurs du Mal. It's a very famous thing. And I read something of Ghalib, which my mother's always quoting these days, so I've just learned it. I can't find the other Urdu poem, I think he didn't. Then this thing of Rahiye Ab Aisi Jagah Chalkar, you can find it. Can you think of any Hindi film songs where people have "Ae Mere Dil Mujhe," what is it? Kahin aur
Kahin
nahi
aur
aur
nahi.
Gham ki duniya se dil bhar gaya. It's there in poetry also. Or I think this is a derivative of Ghalib or Majnun Sultanpuri. "Ae dil mujhe aisi jagah le chal jahan koi na ho."
गलत महमूद ने गाया था
नहीं ये हाँ गलत जिसने गलत महमूद ने गाया है हाँ. This Majnun Sultanpuri, but originally Ghalib, I mean, it's a derivative. And then this thing about being drunken on life. So there's this poet called Charles Baudelaire. You've heard of Baudelaire, and he says, always be inebriated, because to create a lot of people have been inebriated. Always be inebriated. I read it in French a little bit, and I'll explain. Il faut être toujours ivre, tout est là. C'est l'unique question pour ne pas sentir l'horrible fardeau du temps qui brise vos épaules et vous penche vers la terre. Il vous faut enivrer sans trêve. Mais de quoi? De vin, de poésie ou de vertu, à votre guise. Mais enivrez-vous. So you see the various rhythms that I grew up with. I feel all of them have affected my writing. And it says, get yourself drunk, with anything, on life, on wine, on love, anything. But you remain drunk because there's a horrible burden of life, of time, which is on your shoulders and is pushing you towards the ground. So in order to bear that, you have to be drunk on something. Even of virtue. You say, I'm very virtuous. So he says, even virtue can be something that you can be drunk on. And in the same way, Ghalib has said, मैं से गरज नशात है किस रूह सियाह को एक गुना बेखुदी मुझे दिन रात चाहिए निरंतर बेखुदी चाहिए कि मैं से मुझे ये नहीं कि मुझे खुशी मिलेगी मैं पी के शराब पी के पर वो बेखुदी मिलेगी जो मुझे इससे and it's the same thing that is said that this horrible burden of time pushing you towards the ground so you have to be when you think about how wonderful your life is how good or bad or whatever or you're drunk on wine you are actually trying to live your life when you know that there is a very small space in which you can actually exist and live. And so what I was saying was that then there is, so my book actually is, I could call it, Malakme is the invitation to travel. And there's a whole poem by Malakme called Invitation Voyage. It's basically, I won't read it because I've already read the rhythms of, and then there is another one which is called Brise Marine, which is sea breeze, which is very beautiful and it also speaks about the boat. I'll just read a bit of it and then I'll explain it. La chair est triste, hélas. The flesh is sad, alas. Et j'ai lu tous les livres and I have read all the books. Fuir là-bas, fuir, je sens que les oiseaux sont ivres d'être parmi l'écume inconnue et les cieux. You see the way that it goes upwards. It says, escape, escape, there, escape. So this whole idea of getting across the gadli leher of the burden and what to that Roshan Yoga share. So all of us, in a sense, and when the languages that we know, they create these images and they influence our psyche into thinking in a certain way. And that is what I think has happened in my book. I'm able to analyze it afterwards. But when I was writing it, I did not think all these things. But I wrote things like, you want to hear a bit from my book?
Yes.
After this, I just want to go here to see this. And so in my book there is travel, there is art, and there are people. But basically it is an invitation to travel. Travel within yourself. To travel with the protagonist. To go somewhere where you've never been. And perhaps, find yourself in a way see yourself in a way that you've never seen yourself. I have to find this path on travel and I can't find it suddenly. It seems to be lost. But I begin the book with saying the power of the unrevealed moves this world. That's what we don't know. You, I think, understand this. The power of the unrevealed moves this world, moves civilizations. Millions of men and women walk this earth, carrying within them a million secrets each, powerful secrets, loves, hates, desires, dreams, images, unrevealed, unuttered, unacknowledged. They knock about us, gathering momentum until they cause us to engage in the unexpected and sometimes the unwanted. I'm trying to find that page where there's something about travel and I can't find it.
Maybe it wants you to travel.
Yeah.
While you're looking at the book, and I'll just put your minds back into those beautiful songs written by fantastic people. I remember the song from Dur Gagan Ki Chhaav Se.
Yes, दूर हर चीज जो अच्छी वो दूर होती है.
चल के तुझे
मैं लेके चलूं
एक ऐसे गगन के तले.
Exactly. So it is there in our psyche, isn't it?
Now another one. सुहाना सफर और मौसम.
It's travel.
And these are the best, one of the best songs we always grown up with.
Because we have this in our
Journey.
The journey.
Yes.
Escape.
Escape, journey,
Escape from the
discovery,
body, from the drudgeries of
Many
life.
years ago, I wrote
And unending yearning.
I wrote a
Journey,
nazm.
yes,
I wrote a nazm. मैं उसमें से आपको सुनाता हूँ कि मैं I was sitting with a gentleman who had done who in his young days, he was almost 80 years old when I met him. Was my last part of my journey as a Fauji. I went to Bangalore for a course, and there I met this gentleman, Mr. Seth. Some of his nazms had been sung by that time by Jagjit Singh. So he was a famous person, but very humble and very with his 5 foot nothing, with his lady 4.5 feet. Mr. Seth and Mr. Seth were looking after so many street urchins for their give them food. And as a young man, he used to paint. He was doing paintings in Bollywood, in Bombay, of those big hoardings for films.
Like Hussain.
And he'd written more than 5,000 shades. And
What was his name?
Mr. Seth, I don't remember, Mr. Roshan Seth or something like that.
Roshan Seth is another
Another
gentleman.
guy, gentleman. But I think so. When I was sitting with him, and I saw his energy, and at that time I wrote I wrote जिंदा हूँ शायद इसलिए कि अभी तलब बाकी है.
अभी तलब बाकी. आपको मैं किताब अच्छी लगेगी अगर आप पढ़ पाए तो.
जी.
ये बहुत इको फेमिनिस्ट किताब है. और इसमें I mean I don't like it. Actually we put into any into any category. Like people often pigeonhole me as a children's writer. I am a children's writer. I love writing for children, and I've written more than 20 books for children. But I'm also a serious literary writer. I mean, children's work is also serious. I'm not saying it's not. But
children's writing is most serious because you are putting the right ideas in their minds when they're reading.
I don't intend. I'm not a preachy writer.
No, it's not that. Yeah.
But now I found here what is the soul actually of my philosophy of this book. The soul has a destiny which is not always in concordance with the destiny of the body. In our dreams, we are revealed images of the journeying of the soul. The soul is errant across time and space, while the body is bound by them. Yet, in spite of the body, the soul must complete its journey, stage by stage, image by image. It is the tension between the path of the soul and the path of that the body must follow that ages us, that destroys us. Could the body and the soul find harmony, we would become immortal. This is a part of, and this whole book, this one, I've tried with that also. That's based around a work of art. But this one is written as a series, a suite of images going backwards and forwards, So it is written in a cinematic style, especially because of that, because it's a a journey of the soul. Sometimes you go backwards, you go forwards, and there's something that in this book, the second book, the first book, because it was so difficult. See, for India, maybe it was difficult. I don't think people who read novels in other languages like Spanish and French and all, they will find something which is polyglossia, heteroglossia, and dialogic work. Even Kolatula's Heather's work is dialogic. He's constantly talking to other philosophers and other, in the thing itself would be so difficult for them. But these such books are really, they're not mainstream in India today. Maybe if somebody else had written them. So I had some difficulties, like for example, I was publishing with Penguin, and I'll give you a small difficulty. Why are there sentences in French? Now, they're in France, they are speaking, they're not difficult sentences, and they are all transliterated. So you know what they're talking about. So I said, when Dostoevsky writes, or when Tolstoy, because in those days in that century, everyone spoke French. Then you don't bother to say that why haven't they translated it? Why are you telling me that I'm a writer? Then there was another problem, which was very interesting. I mean, now I think it's interesting, that time it just tore me apart. Was that he's a young man, the publisher, my editor. He's a very well-known editor now. He was a very young man, not married. I don't think he knew much about women. He said, your protagonist is insane. So I said, oh, why? She thinks too much. She's a Muslim woman. Why does she think so much? I mean, look at the prejudice there, So I had to face that. I said, no, you give me my book back. And everyone said, oh, Penguin's publishing a book. Change it. I said, no, it's a piece of my soul. I will not change it. So I said, you give it back. They said, no, we won't change it, but we'll publish it as it is, without a single. So they published it. But then he was so angry with me that they did not publicize it. They did not, even though it was nominated for the biggest international award, they did not put that, the flyer over it. They didn't distribute it, they didn't answer my call. Then 5 years later I got it back. And then my publisher, Paul, she's an Indian Kashmiri girl. She published both my books. So it's not an easy journey to be a writer who's different. Either you just go by and say, okay, I'll write an easy book. So what I did for my second book, I did write a linear chronological book. Because the other one is non-chronological, is non-linear, it has 3 voices. There's the protagonist, and it has so much symbolism. So the second one is linear, so it's easier to read. It's the story of the daughter of the woman in the first. So I did compromise in that I wrote this linear book, which was, I feel, it's less, the quality is much less than the first one, which is very visceral, and anybody who can get through it, they sort of keep it for themselves, for their lives. They read it again and again. And yes, and so I feel that a journey of publishing is not easy. I always wanted, my mother would always say when I was a little girl, you will be a writer. But of course, nobody, thought about it. We were just supposed to do whatever. I wanted to be a cinematographer. Then my father was posted in the army headquarters in Delhi, and we were 3 of us, and he said, no, we can't send you to Pune, because in those days, it was like far, telephones also. Can't send you to Pune at the age of 16. You can't go and study cinematography. So then I joined French in JNU, where which was close by, and which was I really liked it, because studying literature is it's a way of relating and understanding life, like cinema.
5 nuances.
Yes, so you do have that. Then after that, I was writing, but mainly for myself. Then I got married to an army officer, which I had always said that I would do. And then all the army officers who wanted to marry me, I laughed at them. I said, no, they're bringing lots of bachelor's photos, because working girls don't marry army officers. And then I met Subir, and I got married to him. And then I thought, then I went back to writing. Then I published my first book of folk and fairy tales in 1994, when my son was 2 years old. And because I was struggling, I didn't want to do nothing with my life. I always thought that I was a 7-time scholarship holder. I was a professional teacher. It wasn't as if it was the the be all and end all of my life. No, maybe if I've been in cinema, it might have been. But teaching French literature even wasn't exactly enough for me. So I always think that what is her name? Malika Sarabhai. She said, if I were only a mother, I would not be complete. If I were only a dancer, I would not be complete. If I were only an actress, if I were only a publisher. And that is true. We have so many parts of ourselves that we need to complete. So that is what, I felt that this is one thing. I wrote a screenplay for a film which was not made, but now it's with another, because that poor lady, she was a French, she died. Mona? You know Mona? Yeah. She was a filmmaker. She died, a few years back. So then finally I got the script back, because in it there was a clause that if the film is not made for 5 years, then the author, it reverts to the author. So now it is with another filmmaker. Let's see what comes of it. So if you want
wish you
to...
the best for that.
Thank you.
I said we wish you the best for that it happens.
Yeah.
And there are so many platforms today.
Yeah.
Yeah, but somebody has to direct it. I don't have the energy or the space in my life to, make a film on my own. I can't. And there was a children's musical that I wrote, the music for which was written by Peggy Mohan. She's also a writer.